When The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild first came out, I didn't get to play it. I remember 6 years ago going into GameStop like every other week and being told that they had no Switches in stock. I didn't want to be spoiled, so I had to stop watching my favorite YouTubers for months. It was loads and loads of build-up, so when I finally got my hands on it, I was over the moon. I played it for a day straight, and at the end of that session, I didn't get it. Everyone was saying that this was the greatest game they had ever played, and yeah, it's good, but I found myself feeling that some of this game was just a chore. Exploring this vast open map felt pretty meaningless after a while, so I put in 50 hours to finish the main story and never touched it again. Now it's 6 years later, there's been 3 Xenoblades, 5 Pokemons, and I graduated both middle and high school. I see Tears of the Kingdom getting hyped up, and I'm like, well, it's gonna be good content, so might as well buy it. I've put in 50 hours in the last 2 weeks, and I haven't touched the main story yet. Finally, I got it. Tears of the Kingdom is an improvement to the original in almost every way. Today I want to highlight 3 major areas that Breath of the Wild really struggled with and how the sequel rectified these problems. As for spoilers, there will be nothing on the story, as I haven't even touched the regional occurrences yet, but I will be showing locations and items you might want to find for yourself. Without further holdup, let's get into it, starting with... You ever be exploring in Breath of the Wild, clearing your way through the wilderness, following the sound of the shrine locator, finally finding the beacon you were hunting for so long, and it's some mid-ass shrine like the wind guides you? This was honestly my main issue with the first game. The problem is that Breath of the Wild doesn't have enough interesting mechanics to support 120 individual challenges, and so it literally doesn't. I can't tell you how many times my excitement has been ruined when I enter a shrine and the title ends with strength. Other classics include blessing shrines for menial quests, motion control messes, or my favorite, putting balls in holes. That's right, most puzzles just involve putting balls in holes, which I've only been recently informed is not the way you have sex. With this limited variety, it kinda killed my enthusiasm for exploration, as the cool experiences like Eventide Island or Thundra Plateau got drowned out by another Guardian Scout. Tears of the Kingdom introduces Ultra Hand and Zonite devices, and these 2 mechanics are game changers. The combination of these 2 things makes almost every shrine an enjoyable romp. The ones that focus on building unique contraptions with Ultra Hand are sandboxes of creativity. Each one of them probably has an intended solution that you'll never find. The sheer combination of parts that actually work to solve the puzzle is ludicrous. Whether I perfectly crafted a vehicle or hobbled together some ungodly contraption, it always felt like I was breaking the game, playing in a way that no developer had intended. And I know it's not just me, because I'll see videos of people every day inventing new solutions in real time. On the other hand, Zonite devices condense ideas a lot more. Instead of a sandbox, device-based shrines present Mario levels. Here, a mechanic will be introduced, remixed a few times, and then a final test will see if you actually learned enough. There's 27 of these things, some with multiple uses, and they can be combined together for even more possibilities. Other than these 2 key factors, shrines generally have improved across the board. The strength tests have been replaced with these Eventide Island type beat shrines where you get stripped of all your equipment. These are actually fun and have a ton of variety, my personal favorite being the one where you have to make a bunch of little tanks to get by. There's also shrines based on the dive, which is a central mechanic introduced in the sequel. The better shrines do wonders for exploration. I literally started avoiding them at the end of Breath of the Wild, but here, I'm about 40 deep and I'm still having a blast. I feel much more motivated to scour the landscape because the shrines actually feel like rewards. I get to build a death machine or do some fun platforming. I'd do that even if you didn't ask me to. So far, I haven't run into a shrine I've actively disliked, and I wouldn't be surprised if it stayed that way through the entire game. So you might see this and think, Tears of the Kingdom still has weapon durability, and it's in full force. You still break your brand new sticks and swords on the heads of moblins. Instead, we need to examine the consequences of the durability system and how Tears of the Kingdom fixed them. In general, I think durability is a good mechanic, almost necessary for the open world Zeldas to work. It makes combat a lot more chaotic and creative. Ocarina of Time combat is like, alright, gotta wait for the right opening, hit them with their weakness, and start slashing. Breath of the Wild combat is like, oh god, my tree branch just broke, okay, knock that out of his hand, pick up that weapon, turn around and shoot him. Where did that explosive barrel come from? Dodge, flurry rush, one more guy left, and I just got shot with an arrow and lost. If you could just solo a camp with one weapon, it would make combat kinda boring. You'd hit anything close to you and shoot anything far. There'd be no reason to roll down rocks to provide cover, or use magnesis as a makeshift weapon, for example, because your actual weapon would be too reliable. But there's one major problem with this. As you progress through Breath of the Wild and you stop picking up branches for elemental greatswords and royal guard blades, your incentives to interact with the world and its enemies are less and less. Why would I have a scrappy fight where I might lose one of my best weapons just to get a regular spear in return? Why should I scavenge through this castle if it won't even raise my attack? This is the main flaw of the durability system, and despite being the hero of Hyrule, I left countless camps full of monsters. In Tears of the Kingdom, durability returns in its full form, except there's a curious thing that happens. Due to the upheaval, every weapon seems to be noticeably weaker. Tons of enemies only carry wooden sticks or simple traveler's swords. Even the strongest weapons of last game barely reach similar damage numbers. To get attacks with some power, you're going to have to use the new Fuse Rune. And this one change completely flips how you interact with enemies. Now instead of bokoblins guarding the prize of combat, they are the prize. Enemies will always drop horns, fangs, and talons, which can then be attached to your weapons to increase their attack power. The more powerful the monster, the higher damage the fusion deals. And it's not just the damage buffs that are useful. Elemental Lizalfos create reapers with powerful effects. Kisai's give arrows homing properties that seek out critical spots, and Aracuda wings make them fly further. This gives you a direct reason to put yourself into danger and fight enemy camps. You simply cannot avoid combat, because if you do, you won't have enough attachments to take down the more powerful bosses. The bosses themselves also play into this, with some of my most powerful gear being made of the remains of Hinoxes and Frox. Even the enemies that don't give great fusions have a purpose here. Sky enemies drop Zonite charges for your battery, Depths enemies guard loads of Zonite. Even these weird little guys drop Bright Bulb seeds. With all the useful materials coming off of enemies, there is literally no reason to not fight monsters. The Fuse Rune was able to make fights more important and dynamic, making me interact with the world that much more. Remember that one side quest in Breath of the Wild where you set up that guy with the Gerudo lady by giving flowers to her? You remember what he gives you for completing that side quest? 120 rupees. You have literally set up this man with the love of his life, the woman he will marry and spend the rest of his days with, and he tries to give you just 20 smackaroos before she forces him to give 100 more. This pretty much exemplifies the problem with side quests in Breath of the Wild. Unless specifically attached to a shrine, you can change an NPC's life and get rupees and maybe some gear if you're lucky. Similar to shrines, the actual worthwhile quests like Terrytown are buried under an avalanche of "Get me 55 rush runes." Seriously, why would anyone need that? Why are we encountering the guy from the math problem? But in defense of the people of Hyrule, there's not much else they could offer. Spirit orbs are locked to shrines, Korok seeds come from Koroks, leaving only weapons, armor, shops, and rupees to side quests. You can't give random NPC4 the cool shit, so rupees it is. The same vein runs through exploration of the world. Shrines and Koroks pepper the land, and if you don't want to do those things, then too bad. There are cool set pieces, don't get me wrong, the labyrinths and the corrupted dragon, which was one of my favorite moments of that game, but they all lead to shrines. Tears of the Kingdom fixes this problem by just having a fucking million rewards. You still have the classics like weapons, armor, and rupees, but also fabrics, old maps, energy cells, sage's wills, pose, bubble gems, and schema stones. It seems like each area of the map grants you a different sort of reward. No longer is the reward for exploration and side quests locked to just raising your health and stamina. Now Link's entire arsenal gains power over time. Not to mention, the game seems to be a lot more liberal with its usage of big rewards. In the original, upgrading your runes was probably the best reward out of all the side content, which then again was locked to a place players would pretty much always run into. The auto-build rune, one of the most useful life-saving runes on your journey, is randomly found in the Great Central Mine. I visited the old tech lab to find the prototype teleportation medallion. Stacking up pony points gets you the towing saddle. There's a weird Great Plateau thing that nets you a heart container. I found a sage's will which I don't even know what to do with yet. Even a side quest that I thought gave me a mid reward was actually the Endura carrot I needed to wake up the horse god Malanya. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but notice once again what this improvement does for the game. It makes you interact with the world more. Enemy camps are now worthwhile detours, shrines or goals to always be gunning for, and side adventures want you to take in the scenery. Breath of the Wild's Hyrule was one that encouraged you to explore. There's a huge map and a lot of content, and you should go engage with it. Whereas Tears actually gets you excited to explore that content. With all the things I want and need to progress, searching every corner of Hyrule is no longer a chore. Coupled with the improved Koroks, more interesting story, and larger map, there is not a single place where it falters compared to the original. Tears of the Kingdom isn't perfect, of course. There doesn't feel like enough weapon types, you can still heal all of your hearts from the menu, and the voice acting could use a little work, but what it is a perfect sequel. Hey guys, I've been playing the shit out of Tears of the Kingdom, bro. This game is so good. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And follow me on Twitch for live streams on Friday through Saturday, 6 to 10 p.m. EST. Hope to see you in chat, and I'll see you later. Bye!